Well, hello, hello, hello. I am so excited about today. If you or someone you know has osteoporosis, you need to listen to this show today because they can learn about how to strengthen their bones naturally with my guest, Margie Bissinger. I'm really excited about Margie, and I'll tell you about her in a moment. I'm Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer, and I help people release joint pain by letting go of inflammatory thoughts and feelings so that they can become empowered creators of their health. And this show is Wellness by Design, and it's all about helping people design a life that leads them to wellness instead of just reacting to the world around them. So, Margie, welcome, welcome, welcome to the show.
Oh, Jane, I'm so excited to be here. I love the energy that you have, and it feels good to be with you.
Oh, I know. Mutual. Just look at you. You're so cheerful and happy. And everything you do is happy, including your programs and then your website and all that. So I'll tell people about it. So you're a physical therapist. You've been practicing for 25 years and you specialize in osteoporosis, right?
Well, I've actually been practicing probably for more like over 35 years, but I've been working with osteoporosis for over 25 years. Yes.
Wow. Wow. That's a long time. So you know a lot about osteoporosis.
Yes, yes, yes.
Fantastic. So I'll just read a little bit more of your bio here. I need to put my glasses on. Okay, so you're an interactive health coach as well and a happiness trainer. No
Yes.
wonder you're so happy. And so you help people improve their bone health through an integrative, comprehensive approach, utilizing whole foods, exercise, supplements, mind body relaxation techniques, and happiness training. Margie is the author of Osteoporosis, an Exercise Guide, and she oversees all the osteoporosis initiatives in the state of New Jersey as the physical therapy representative to the New Jersey Interagency Council on Osteoporosis. Margie teaches an online 6-week program, Happy Bones, Happy Life, to give people the tools to naturally achieve optimal bone health. Margie is the host of the Happy Bones and Happy Life podcast as well. So Margie, welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Well, how did you get into specializing in osteoporosis? Did you have a personal experience?
Yeah, but it's so funny because people ask me that. I mean, I did with the happiness, but with the osteoporosis, what happened was my background is orthopedic physical therapy. So working with neck pain, back pain, all the joints. And I moved to New Jersey, and had a private practice at the time. And there were a group of doctors. This was way back, and there were a group of doctors who were looking for a physical therapist to send their patients to with osteoporosis. And I said, sure. They asked me. And when I saw these people, they were doing, here, well-intentioned individuals were doing exercises they didn't know who to turn to. So they were doing exercises that actually increased their fracture risk. And I realized that people aren't out there spreading the word on what's safe and what's appropriate. And so I got very involved on the state level, national level, did as much training as I could. And so that's when I started, because I saw there was a need. And I was much younger at the time. As I've gotten older, I've worked on my own bones and everyone I know's bones as well. But I also saw I became even more passionate because I wasn't thrilled with what conventional medicine was doing. Not that they had any harm. I think they just didn't realize that there was another way. And there's things women can do at all ages, even children, so that they have strong bones. So it doesn't have to be a problem later on. And so it was really, I fell into it, saw the need. That's when I wrote my book. And then I went back realizing that nutrition was a huge component, and I just wanted to learn everything. And that's when I became a health coach. So it all sort of happened, but it wasn't that I myself had osteoporosis, the typical story. And then I discovered all of this. It was more working with people and seeing there's another way and seeing that it was successful, which was so exciting and so empowering, because people, it's just the opposite. People find out they feel great. This is osteoporosis is silent. You feel great. You get a bone density and it shows you have osteoporosis. And all of a sudden you don't feel empowered. You feel, oh my God, frail, I'm going to fall and my life's over. So it's just the opposite. Yeah.
Oh, I love what you talked about there, that it's you deal with prevention as well.
Yeah. So at any stage, it's never too early. It's never too late. And I think bone health has to go. We have to like think about that for our kids, for everyone, because what we do when we're younger, basically women, 85 to 90% of their bone, they develop by the age of 18 in women and 20 in men. So what we do when we're younger is going to have such an impact on us as as people get older.
Mm-hmm. And I know I didn't mention earlier, but you've been on national television talking about this and advising Fortune 500 companies and everything. So you've really worked at spreading the word on all of this.
Yeah, it's really been my mission because, as I said, I look at it almost, like there's a silver lining to everything. So when you find out you have osteoporosis, usually the bones, like Jane, the bones aren't in isolation. It's not just one thing that happens with the body. If anybody knows, it's you. And so usually people have other things as well. So it's sort of like you don't feel badly and you find out, what's going on with my bones. And the good thing is when you make the changes that are going to help you improve your bone health, everything else gets better. So it's sort of like, I see couch potatoes who become major exercisers and they've never felt better in their life. So I think it's sort of, there is a silver lining and there's so much you can do that helps not only your bones, but everything.
So many times when people get a diagnosis of something, that I know you talked about that initial reaction where you don't feel whole, you feel like you've kind of broken in some ways. But for so many people, it does turn out to be such a blessing when it's a signal from their body, and if they take the initiative to pay attention and do something about it, it can actually make them healthier and stronger. So it's beautiful.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, love that. Now, I want to say too, if anyone has any questions for Margie, just feel free to put them in the comments and we can answer them as we're going. So don't be shy. Go ahead and ask questions. Now, you mentioned women in there. Do you work mostly with women? Is it like women are more prone to problems with osteoporosis? Is that true?
Well, what happens, here's the statistic. One in the United States, I'll do worldwide since you don't live in the United States. Worldwide, 1 out of 3 women. In the United States, it's 1 out of 2 women. And worldwide, it's 1 out of 5 men. In the United States, 1 out of 4 men will have a fracture due to osteoporosis in their lifetime. So wow. The thing is, it affects women like 10 years earlier because of menopause, typically.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So it's definitely related to hormones then.
It can be, yes. The estrogen has a protective effect on the bone. So there's so many different reasons. That's the thing, that a lot of times people don't realize that there are many root causes that aren't even looked at. And that's one of the things that I believe in so strongly, is that you need to figure out the root cause. For example, someone has digestive issues and then they just put them on medication. So they're not absorbing their nutrients. So once you fix the digestion, guess what? Things start improving with your bones as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Do you think it takes, I heard a number somewhere that they say it takes 7 years, the bone cells turn over every 7 years. Is that a fallacy?
Yeah. No. No. And that's an interesting point, because some people think, we have the skeleton, we just have it, but that's not the case at all. The case is we have a system. It's every 7 to 10 years we get a new skeleton. So it's called bone remodeling. So what happens, there's 2 types of cells. One's called osteoclast and one's called osteoblast. So what happens is the osteoclast, they break up some bone, some old bone, and guess what? Then the osteoblast put new bone. So you have fresh, healthy bone. It's the body's way to stay healthy. And so it's a good thing. The problem is there should be a nice balance with that. The problem is that it becomes out of balance as we get older and with different things. And so we're losing more bone than we're gaining. So that's
interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I love to think of that skeleton as being a living tissue that is capable of regeneration. And it does regenerate. It's a fact.
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, love that. So tell me a little bit about how you do this treatment of osteoporosis, because I know it's not medication, because it's natural, right?
Yes. The thing is, again, we have to look at the root cause, and it's very important that you have a doctor and evaluate everything, because it could be a parathyroid tumor, which I've seen several times. And if that's, you need to figure out what's going on. So I'm a big believer in working with a doctor and looking at every single thing. So, sometimes, different people need different things, but so root cause, but that could be a 2-hour lecture. I want to give people things
Yeah.
they can really do. I think something that's absolutely essential, and again, being a physical therapist was my first profession and one I still do, but the exercise is so important. Oftentimes people think, oh, I'll just walk, or they're told to do weight bearing and resist, not even resistance sometimes, but the two exercises that really have been shown in the research to increase bone density are impact. So, weight bearing, but impact, and then resistance exercise. And it's so interesting because the bones respond to the forces placed upon them. So if we're putting forces on if we're jumping, if we're doing kicks, and that's why it's so important for children to not be sitting at the computer and be exercising and active, because all those forces are creating strong bones. But at any age, in terms of doing things, but resistance training, even twice a week, has been shown to be effective in increasing bone density. And so a lot of people, I'll just lift that 2 pounds. And it has to be more than you're accustomed to. So my suggestion is that if you have osteoporosis, is to really see a physical therapist. Or do they have a different name? Is it called physiotherapist where you are?
Physiotherapist.
Yeah. So, but the reason is because each person, that would be the number one on my list. If you have the ability, each person is so different. And you really want enough force on the bones to be effective. They did a study not that long ago, which really almost shocked everybody, because it was called the Lift More study, done in Australia. And they used it was a study done with people were being supervised. So there were therapists, there were physiologists, there were exercise physiologists, but it was supervised. They were not doing this on their own. But these were people with osteoporosis, even people who had had fractures, but they were doing, higher intensity training than just typical exercises. And they found after 8 months that in the lumbar spine, they had a 2.9% increase in bone density versus a control group who had I think it was minus 0.3, or no, minus 1.9, minus 1.9% decrease in bone density. And then in the femoral neck, part of the hip, they also had like a 0.3% increase versus a minus 1.2 decrease in control group. But the point is, at any age, people were gaining bone. But this was high intensity, which so I think it's important to take the concept. I don't think people should go out there and just start jumping and doing if they don't know their posture. So that's why it's so nice if you can have someone work with you. Ideally, any exercise is better than no exercise. But I think a lot of people don't realize that the resistance makes the difference. And so, it's not doing 50. If you have a choice, should we do 50 reps at a certain weight, or 10 reps? It's the lower weight that they found to be effective for the bone density.
The lower reps, or the
higher weight, lower reps. Yeah.
Higher weight, lower reps. Okay.
Yeah, so there's the American Physical Therapy Association did a white paper on this, and their recommendation, the Geriatric Society, the division, or I forgot of geriatrics, what they recommend is that you start with a weight that you can do. It's called 60% 1 rep max, but what that means is something you can do 15 times, and it feels somewhat hard, not that hard. And versus what you really want for increasing bone is around 80% 1 rep max, would be to find something that you could do around 10 repetitions before your form deteriorates. So it's challenging. You're working somewhat hard. And I think a lot of times people don't take it to that level, but that's what they found,
interesting.
Really increases bone density.
I found it interesting. You said impact was the other type. So an impact type of. So what would that be? What's an example of that?
Well, for example, jumping if you can, though. Again, it depends on what your bone density is, and it depends on the quality. Because I'm not going to tell everybody with osteoporosis to start jumping, but you can do things like I teach something where you go up on your toes. Should I Can I show it on this? Or no, most people aren't, I guess, aren't watching the, but something I do is like you go up on your toes and then you go down on your heel. So you're getting some impact, even
Okay.
stomping I like to do, but like it's qigong stomping where your foot's relaxed and you're just gently. So, but impact would be hiking, dancing, weight
Okay.
bearing, where you're getting weight on the bones through gravity.
Okay. Because I'm often now this, I don't want to put you in a position when you're, because I know it's osteoporosis, but a lot of people in my audience have joint pain, RA, things like that. And of course, we're always worried about the joints and not putting too much
Right,
stress on the
right. So
joints.
that's why it's so important. That's why strength training is amazing, because
Okay.
you can do strength training in positions that are not putting forces on the joints, but yet are still getting stress on the bones. So that's why I
Mm,
think, especially for this audience, if you have the ability to see a therapist and to see someone that can design a totally safe program for you, because I do think it's not safe if someone has issues to start just picking up some video and start doing it. Again,
right.
use your pain as your guidelines. But that's also why I love Tai Chi, Qigong, other ways, Pilates. In some ways, I want to just tell everyone some of the precautions, though. Again, it depends. But can I mention the precautions that I think are so
Sure.
important?
Yes. Yes.
This is so, so, so important, because what they did a study years ago at the Mayo Clinic, and they wanted to look at fracture risk over a 6-year period of time with different exercises. So they had people only doing rounding exercises, flexion, it's called, forward bending. And they found there was an 89% fracture rate. These were for people who already had osteoporosis. Can you imagine? 89 versus they had people doing backward, working their back
Yeah.
muscles. They had a 16% fracture rate. Can you imagine this?
Big difference.
Yeah. The combination was 53 and the control group was in the 67%. So the point was, and the reason that is when you bend forward and when you're rounded, the front of the vertebrae, the front of the spine gets compressed. And that's where the fractures occur. It's not in the back. So when we're doing things rounded, we're putting more force on the spine where it's more prone to fracture. And I think we have to take that one more step, because what's everybody doing now, Jane? We're all sitting. Exactly. So if you think, we know that increases fractures, it's so important for our posture not to be in that position so that we can keep the forces off of that area that's more prone to fracture.
Wow. As soon as you say posture, I sit up right away.
Right.
Okay, so that's really good advice, and you've inspired me to get to go see a physical therapist, and get an exercise, like a weight bearing plan that's right for me. Because I've tried sometimes, and like I end up hurting my shoulder, and I think, okay, I haven't done something right, but I don't know what I did wrong. So get advice from the expert. That's
And
great.
some people don't realize that. And I know in the United States, very often it's covered by insurance as well. And even a few times, just so they see your posture, your body, just to make sure that you're not doing anything that maybe the way you're standing is putting force on your arthritic knee, or maybe you're just not in alignment, or maybe sometimes you need help being stretched out so they can relieve some of the pressure, and then you can
Yeah.
do an exercise program that will also help your bones. But I just want everyone to hear, no matter what you do, it's good. So don't worry, even though anything you're going to be doing, walking shown to significantly reduce hip fractures, anything
Wow.
is important, and especially balance too. Even just, that's why I love Tai Chi, and that's so good for the joints as well.
Mhm. How about yoga? I do yoga every day. How's that for
Okay,
the
so
joints?
here's the thing with yoga, and and I can actually include some handouts. I'll give you, Jane, that you can post, that were posted by Sherry Betts, this physical therapist, who made these amazing handouts on yoga and Pilates. Yoga, I love yoga. I think it's amazing mind body, but a lot of the positions in yoga are not good because they're rounded postures.
Yeah.
So for yoga, what you want to do is do neutral postures. So not the rounded postures. When you bend from the hips and not the weight.
Yeah.
And also what you don't want to do in yoga, you don't want the extremes of motion. So you don't want extreme side bending. You don't want that end range. You want to just a little back off a little from that. You want to get power in the poses, but not the end range. And in terms of side bending and rotation. And then,
Okay.
but these sheets are really good. They have exactly what poses are good, what poses aren't. So I'll make sure to give you the links. And
Oh, I'd love that. I love that.
There's one on yoga and there's one on Pilates. And the other thing is, if you're in a class, never ever let the teacher, the instructor, do the overpressures, because that's too much.
Okay. Yeah. I have noticed in the yoga classes that I've gone to that, and it's something I didn't hear years ago, but I'm hearing it more now, is to not round. Like they do say, keep your spine and your head, all of that in alignment. So if that's in alignment, that should be good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. I did Tai Chi years ago. I knew all 108 moves, don't know them anymore, but I keep thinking, I know this would be good for me. I should get back into it again, because it's beautiful practice.
The interesting thing, in my program, I teach just some very basics, easy, but even just weight shifting. The reason I think they've done lots of studies, and they found that Tai Chi is one of the best ways to prevent falls and improve your balance. And I think the reason is that we're moving. You're moving back and forth, side to side. Yeah. You're shifting the weight. And so then what happens is your body, you have that motion down. So if you trip or something catches you off guard, oh, I got this, because you've been practicing.
Right.
You've been practicing being stable while you're moving. So I think that's why it's so effective.
Oh, that's great.
Versus, I'm a big believer in standing on one foot and doing all sorts of balance exercises, because if we don't use it, guess what?
We'll lose it.
We'll lose it. Exactly. But I think that's why. So even if people just do that weight shifting, front to back, side to side, so I teach that in my programs, because easy things. I teach easy exercises in my programs that people can put to use. There are some easy things that everybody can do that are safe. But I think that, I think the best suggestion, if you can, is to get a custom program. And it doesn't mean you go to physical therapy forever. It may be 1 or 2 sessions just for someone to look at you and see what maybe, you certainly don't want to cause any pain while you're trying to improve your bones.
We don't always realize what we're doing ourselves. When I did do Tai Chi years ago, I remember my teacher always saying, relax your shoulders. Like, I didn't realize that I was like this all the time until, like, now that I'm more relaxed, I know it, but I used to be like this. And he'd say, relax your shoulders. I'm like, they are relaxed. What are you talking about? They were just so used to being up there and tight, I couldn't relax them.
No, it's so true. And I think the problem is people think they have to live this way. They think, oh yeah, I have tightness every day. I'm fatigued at the end of the day. This hurts, that hurts. And they will have some excuse why. But guess what? The good news is you don't have to. You can move so much better and freer. It's really possible. And I think people don't see how critical posture is. And one of the things I'm giving everyone is a posture exercise program. These exercises are really, really, really safe. There's nothing that you can do that.
Yeah, and I'm going to have a link to that. So, okay, I know everyone, we might even end up going over a little bit, but anyway, one question that people always say when I talk about nutrition, and especially because in the work that I do, dairy often is inflammatory for people. People say, well, how am I going to get my calcium? I need it for my bones. So how do you address that question?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because a lot of times, people go to the doctor, and what I see is actually people have too much calcium. I mean, this is what I'm seeing, is that most doctors will tell people, take calcium and vitamin D. Those are the 2 things that pretty much every doctor, I don't know in Newfoundland or in Canada, but in the United States, because that's where I work, most doctors are, calcium and vitamin D. And the problem is, more is not better with calcium. Actually, there are some studies that nothing's been 100% conclusive, but if with extra calcium, they're finding there could be cardiovascular problems, that the extra calcium is going places we don't need it. We don't want it,
right,
in the kidneys and things. So first of all, more is not better. And what I see is that people will be getting some in their diet, and then they're also taking 1,000 milligrams in supplements. So I think the most in the United States, they say that 1,200 milligrams is for anyone over 50. And that's the absolute most you want. In other places, it's even less. But the absolute most that you want combined. So my favorite ways are to get, and I don't have dairy myself, and I do agree with you. For so many people, it is inflammatory. My favorite way are the leafy greens.
Absolutely.
Right? You can get 200 collard greens, 268 milligrams of calcium in a cup, a cup of cooked collard greens. So I like to use them if I make like a turkey burger or a bean burger. I use it as a wrap, which is really great.
Yeah.
And I have all sorts of other things where I'll use it as a wrap, and it, or saute it with different things. Collards,
People just aren't aware that they can get calcium from vegetables, from the leafy greens. They just don't really know much about it. But there's plenty available there, and probably all we need, and absorbed in a better way as well.
Yeah, and also bok choy. That's another one that's amazing. Even kale, so the leafy greens are great. Sardines, if people, eat fish, sardines, they're full of bones. So there's lots of ways that you can get calcium in your diet. So definitely you don't want to, because inflammation is one of the things that can bother osteoporosis as well. But the other things that I think are important are vitamin K2. I think is critical. I think you want to get it into the bones. That takes calcium out of the soft tissues and into the bones. And the other thing is magnesium. We're all so deficient in magnesium.
Yes.
So I think, there's many other nutrients as well, but I think those are two absolutely critical ones that are often not talked about.
Yeah, I think, well, maybe it's just because I'm in this circle, but it seems like people are talking more about the magnesium and how we need it for so much, and it's deficient. And it's, why is it deficient? It's the soils have been depleted because they've been, harvested over and over again with the same crops and so on. So yeah, there's a big problem with the calcium deficiency, but I'm really glad that you mentioned the K2 as well, because a lot of people are taking the vitamin D and not realizing that you need to take the K2 with it as well.
Such a good point, because right now with COVID, the vitamin D is amazing. And they've done so many studies now. I mean, they've done studies showing that people who are deficient in vitamin D are the people that are more in the hospitals and having issues. So the vitamin D is so critical, but you're right. Taking vitamin D, which is going to cause more calcium absorption, and not having this K2 to make sure it goes where it should. I think it's so important.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. The other thing we wanted to talk about, of course, is the role of happiness.
Yes. It's so interesting because people come to see me and they're so stressed out. Oh my God, am I eating the right foods? Am I doing the right exercise? And they're not realizing that the stress itself the cortisol, the stress hormones, actually been shown to reduce the activity of the osteoblasts, the bone building cells. So it's so important that we do practices to reduce stress. And they've done studies showing that increased anxiety is associated with lower bone density. But with happiness, which is my favorite thing, and I discovered that years ago with my patients when I'd gone through something not great, and people were like, "You're so happy." I was working with chronic pain. And I thought, God, if they only knew what I went through. But the truth was, I sort of was happy. And I realized it was an inside job. And I started teaching my patients this, and amazing things happened. But happiness has been correlated with bone density as well. And they found that people who are content with their life have increased bone density. So, and as you can imagine, if you feel better about life, you're going to be so much more apt to do your exercises, eat properly. Plus, who doesn't want to wake up and want to embrace their day? So I think that I found that when we add all of the components together, people get better and people are happier and they're less stressed and they're healthier. I mean, you know so well about the food and their joints. I just, because for people listening with joint issues, this is so funny, because I've had several people who had osteoporosis and arthritis, and they had a food sensitivity. Typically, the people I saw was to gluten. When they got rid of the gluten, a year later, their bone density got better. And guess what? Their arthritis went away. So it's
amazing.
A lot of the things that the people with the rheumatoid arthritis, with the joint issues, sometimes if you figure out the cause of that, your bones can get better as well.
Yeah, yeah. And the whole thing about being happy and well, that's reducing stress. When you reduce stress, your autonomic nervous system works better, and that's running the whole show. It's the one that's rebuilding all of our bones. It's the one that's running our digestion, running our immune system, and all of those things. So I love that you make it so, put it in such a simple package that happiness is going to
Well, the
help us
other
so
thing
much.
is that happiness, they found people are 35% less likely to get sick when they're happier. They live 9 years longer. So there's major 47% reduction in sleep disorders. I mean, there's major health benefits of happiness. So
Yeah.
what a great thing, right? Instead
It
of,
is.
okay, well, I have to work on being happier.
Yeah. Well, what's there not to like?
True.
I love you just exude happiness, Margie. So thank you so much for this. Now I know you mentioned the gift, and I've got I'll have a link there to happyboneshappylife.com, which is your website /gift. So that's a free
Yes.
gift. I'll also have a link to your course if people want to go a little bit further with it and get your course. So thank you so much for sharing these things. Tell us about the gift, a little
Oh, okay.
briefly.
What the gift was the posture. I realize is so important because we want to be in alignment to do any type of exercise program. Plus, you feel better. You know, when you're like this, it constricts everything. And if you say, I feel happy like this, you feel miserable.
Yeah.
But when we're expanded, so the gift really goes how to sit, how to stand. There's 7 videos. It started with 7 videos on also text neck. You know, the whole world is having
Oh yeah.
so how to what to do. They're very short videos. And then I also added at the end a qigong that I like that you
Oh.
could that's so easy that you can do throughout the day to really just help your posture. So they're videos. Ideally I had done them like for 2 weeks to better posture, but you can do them, you know, I said like do one, then 2 days later do the next, like practice, but you can use them whenever. But they're, you know, you see me doing them. You really can't hurt yourself with these, you know.
Perfect. Thank you. That's such a great gift. All right. My last question that I always ask everyone is what's one action someone could take today to improve their health? So today, starting right now.
Today, I think to make an intention to see the world, what's going right, you know, to look at the world and say, okay, what is going right? And just go through their day and celebrate when good things happen. So I think
Oh,
focusing on the good for today.
I love that, Margie. Oh, so beautiful and simple. Focus on the good. Thank you for that. So you're also on Facebook and Instagram, and
Yeah,
your handle is at Margie Bissinger.
it's just Margie Bissinger. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll put a link to that too. So thanks so much for joining me today on Wellness by Design. And if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and post them in the comments even afterwards. I'm sure we'll get to them. And just let us know. What do you think? Have you had osteoporosis? Have you tried any of these things before? Do you know anyone with osteoporosis? You can share this with them. So yeah, just let us know what you thought. And I hope you enjoy this. I'm sure you will. So thank you, Margie.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Jane, for having me on here. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.